Sam, why would I use this product as opposed to developing something in-house? Why would I come to Supply Chain Coach to have this developed?
So the reason that we've been able to put our own expertise in it is first that the companies that we've worked with, Supply Chain Coach, we work and managed with a lot of different companies in their supply chains. And so with that experience, what we do is we can look and analyze and take that knowledge and expertise and say, what do customers actually want in the data warehouse? And so with our data warehouse, we're very specialized and we have a very deep understanding of your supply chain and what kind of analytics you need to drive out of that data warehouse, because that's the purpose of a data warehouse, is to get these analytics and KPIs and then eventually turn those into dashboards, which turn into business decisions. So with that, we're able to also have an advantage with our technical support and optimization. So with our data warehouse, we'll be able to manage it, host it, and do any maintenance and upgrades on it for a much less amount of time, since we're distributing it across multiple clients, than it would take internally. And so this way you can enjoy a complex data warehouse that's very low maintenance, easy to use, and low cost as well.
So Sam, when we started out, we looked at several different business intelligence tools that we wanted to deploy, and as we did that, we settled on one specific product. And can you talk a little bit about that process there and why we did that?
Absolutely. So we only build the data warehouse. Business intelligence tools are so plentiful and so capable already, we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. And so what we do with the supply chain data warehouse, GLASS is what it's called, is we actually implement other business intelligence tools. Right now we're currently partnered with a business intelligence tool called Beam, and they're our recommended choice. However, you have a lot of other options. The nice thing about Beam and why we chose it was that it's flexible. A lot of different businesses, when they try and implement a business intelligence solution, they get prices back anywhere between $30,000 and $60,000 per year. We went through the same process trying to find it ourselves. We think that that's way too much upfront cost to start a business intelligence program, and you don't even know if it's going to work or not, or even if it's the right fit. The thing we like about Beam, though, is that it's charged per month. You only get charged $360 per month for most cases, and from there you're able to have an analyst creating reports, as many people as you want that can view the dashboards and interact with them, and then you can have that for $360 per month, and then you have no commitment as well. So we like setting up people with these kind of really easy, set up for success, but plan for the worst as well solutions, which is why we like Beam. Another popular option that we've seen a lot of work with is Microsoft Access. Microsoft Access is really powerful and really great since it's a one-time license cost, and most people already have it purchased for their work environment. And so what happens is with this Access, you have something that's really quick to use. Users usually know how to use it, and it's easily integratable with GLASS. And so in no time you'll be up and running and doing analysis on any platform, including Microsoft Access or any kind of online BI solution as well. We can also integrate with...
Okay, that's great. Can we get started just taking a look at what the tool looks like here?
Absolutely, Bob. So let me bring up what we use. It's called Beam. So here we see Beam. As you can tell, it's online. I opened up a web browser. You just enter in a username and password, and you're logged in, able to access your data. The nice thing about Beam is that it's, since it's web-enabled and very lightweight, you can actually run this on a tablet or your iPhone or your Android. And it even has an app that you can use to view and work with and deliver dashboards. And so you can take this tool with you anywhere. So here we can see we have all the different columns that we have with the intelligence tool. These are from a transportation management system, and right now we're looking at the item level data. One of the advantages that we have with GLASS is that in most TMSs, what happens is you can't really allocate or get a good drill down idea of what's happening. You can see a good picture of what do my loads look like, how much does my fuel cost me, and how much was I actually invoiced for. And you can know what items were on that shipment. But you don't necessarily have a good idea of, well, what is that item's allocated fuel? How much did fuel cost for just that item? Or what did the carrier charge me in terms of just one single package. In a normal TMS, you have a really difficult time trying to extract those. But in the glass extract process, we're able to unroll that and figure out and allocate all those terms down and then up again for calculating stuff like cube of the load and other measures.
And just to reiterate for those on the line, this item group is this SKU level of data. So when we extract this from the transportation management system, we do the transformation on the data, break it out into a relational database, and we're seeing one of those data tables called the item group or the SKU level. So that's the level at which Tim is working here. Go ahead, Tim.
Okay, and so with this, we can kind of really put a different spin on transportation systems. So right now we're working with data from MercuryGate. MercuryGate's a very popular TMS. But what we can do is we can look at the MercuryGate ID, and we can look at the count that's happening for these IDs. And so here we bring it up, and right now it's processing through a few million records. But as you can see, it's pretty quickly. We see a whole different ton of SKUs that we're shipping. But that doesn't do us a lot of good. So what we want to do is we can easily select just a few SKUs to look at. So we'll select 7 here. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Go ahead and apply. So now we're looking at the volumes of these 7 different SKUs. We can put this into chart formats to get an easy visual representation of the data. Here you can obviously see that 2 SKUs are predominantly the largest. There's one that's the second largest. And then obviously a few others barely got shipped at all. So with this tool, we can easily see these are actual SKUs that are shipped, and we can see what the quantity is. Now, what we can also do is start to do different kinds of analysis. So instead of just looking at the dynamic count, which is the number of SKUs we've shipped overall for this record, what we can do is that we can actually look at different measures, such as the cost per quantity. So we take the carrier's total cost, and we can divide it out by quantity. This is a really good indication for different items of how powerful or how well is your supply chain performing. How much does it cost you to ship one case of it?
The carrier's total cost, and you have it all the way, in this example you're giving, the cost is broken and allocated all the way to the SKU level. Am I correct?
Exactly. And so one of the problems that happens is that nobody ships shipments with just one type of thing on it. You have multiple different SKUs. And so the question is, how do you know how much that item costs? What we do is we divide it out. And so we get the true cost for each of these items. And so this analysis is really difficult to happen in any kind of TMS. What we're able to do is by doing this extract process into the data warehouse, we're able to calculate it out very easily. And here you can see the results. Normally, it's a very difficult process actually.
Sorry, Sam. What method do you use to allocate that cost down to the SKU?
Good question. So allocation is kind of something that's really almost personal to your business, because a lot of customers might use cube. They might even more go by weight. And some go by custom references or different rating counts that's on carrier basis, such as per pallet. And so instead of trying to do a one-size-fits-all solution, what we do is we actually customize glass when we set it up so that we can allocate it on any term that you want it to run on. And so we get a lot of power from that.
Okay. All right.
So here in this chart, we already learned something here, and this is a descriptive analytic. This just tells you a fact about your supply chain. This tells you that your cost per quantity on 60726 is really high. But in most cases, we can't really know, was it just one that costed really high, or was it a lot of instances? So what we can do is go ahead and color this to show different colors. So here we can see the volume, green being the lowest volume and red being the highest volume. Obviously, we can see that there's only one of these happening. What likely happened is that we hit a carrier's minimum at $55.69, and then they had probably a fuel surcharge or something else put onto there. But in this, so we don't get led down the wrong path by using these multiple axes of analysis. See how this normally would have raised a flag, but now we can see there's only one item that was shipped like this. So we can go ahead and filter this out. So now we're looking at the other items, and we can see, oops, I accidentally clicked the wrong filter. Go ahead and filter this guy out. There we go. So now we can see with a little bit closer detail of the cost per quantity on these now 6 different items. We can see the volume, red being highest and green being lowest. And so we can see that, such as this item, 60726-00035, is having a really high cost per quantity, and it's also having high volume. And so these are the kinds of things that we want to be concerned. Things that are problems and problems that happen often. We can't trace down every problem in your supply chain, and that's an ineffective strategy to do. And we can't look at just the biggest things because they may not necessarily be problematic. But by looking at something like this, we can now kind of analyze, why is this SKU so expensive? So a lot of different factors.
Can we look at how we might measure carriers and maybe modes using this tool as well? Because those are always
absolutely
pretty key measures and KPIs that we can develop.
Absolutely, Bob. So real quick, what I want to show is if we go ahead and open this up, we can kind of have a little bit of guidance going through our carriers. And so what we can do is decompose this by the constant state. And to know, where are my most expensive carriers happening?
And that's just for this group. That's just for this group of items that you're looking at here. It could be some other slicing and dicing of the data that you use, correct?
So right now we're just drilling down into this one SKU that seemed to cost us a lot. And so here we can see the cost per quantity across all the different states it's shipped. Green being low volume and red being high volume. The lower the bar, the better. That means we have a low cost per pound. Here, most of this is going well, except for we see Texas. Texas is pretty expensive, and it's high volume as well. 62 times we've shipped to Texas, and the cost per pound is $2.58. We don't really think we want to do that, and so we say, hey, you know what? Maybe our rates aren't that good with Texas. What we can do from here is look at what kind of carriers are shipping to Texas. So if I go ahead and hop over to this other table here, inside Beam it's very quick to jump between tables, but I just opened up tabs so it would be even quicker. So what we want to look at is maybe we want to look which carrier is costing us so much money in Texas. So what we can do is filter by the destination state to only include Texas. Click that guy right there, apply. And now what we can look at is the carrier name, who's shipping what. And then we want to measure the carrier. One of the best carrier measures for less than truckload is going to be the cost per pound. As a company, you have a certain weight of freight that you have to move every week. And so by measuring what's the lowest cost for that given statistic, you can get very good with it. Cost per mile is also effective, but you get affected negatively once you start consolidating and you enter higher weight breaks for your certain lane. And so we like to use cost per pound when we're looking at LTL. Truckloaded obviously doesn't penalize you for adding more weight, so that's why we use cost per mile. But looking at cost per pound now, we can see all these different carriers. We want to narrow it down to just one mode though. So we go and filter by mode. And then let's just look at LTL. In this case, we have a lot of volume going through this sample data set, and so we'll go ahead and look at it now. So now we can see the cost per pound. The units are wrong here. Let's change that real quick. We could modify. Oops. Click calculate display format, and everything is in pounds. And everything's formatted correctly. You can see the cost per pound. So we can continue with motor freight.
This looks great on the screen. How would I share this data? And you could continue doing the different kinds of charts, but there are methods for me. Let's say I'm a third-party logistics provider, and I want to share this data with a specific customer, and I want to give customer access to this. Let me talk a little bit about how we do that.
Absolutely, Bob. And so what we can do is the purpose of these supply chain, of these reports, isn't just for some analyst to get the understanding and for them to learn a fact. The purpose of the analytics that we see is driving business value through decision support. And so what this enables you to do is maybe go back to your carriers or analyze it. But usually your analyst isn't the person to do this. And so what you do is you put your data into a dashboard. Dashboards are really easy. They're not as complex as using this kind of analysis view, and they give you the same kind of visual results as this, and it's a much quicker representation. So I'm going to go hop over to our dashboard screen, and we can see a sample dashboard that we put together.
So this is something that I would give my customer access to this dashboard via the web, correct? And they would see what you're seeing on the screen.
Exactly. So what we want to show is this is something that you can integrate it into your website. You can email it as an image. You can deliver it on the web, and your customer can actually log in and click this if you're a 3PL. If you're a shipper, then normally we see a lot of people showing it internally. But 3PLs are really interested in showing these off, having kind of a scorecard to say how are we doing and how are we saving your money to justify the customer staying with a 3PL. These are easily deliverable and integrate easily into any web page. It's just a simple copy-paste, and you can put it into your website. You can put it into an email. You can deliver it on a periodic basis. You can print it out on a sheet of paper, or you can easily include it in a PowerPoint presentation.
So are these are these customizable? So we could put any report in the dashboard to make viewable?
Absolutely. So not only can you make, you can customize anything. So change anything you want, change the charts, add more charts, remove charts. But even more effectively for 3PL is that you have the ability to template your charts. And so you template your sample customer, and you can actually create these for each one of your customers very quickly. And so every time you get a new customer, you just use the same template for that customer. 3PLs are really interested in doing on-time performance, total cost, the volume that they're shipping, those kinds of figures. And so you can easily create a template by organizing these around, and then you can say, you can easily show that off to your customer. Here we can click Edit and shrink this guy a little bit more. And done with that. And so now we have 4 here, and not sure why it's not displaying correctly here.
Right. So Sam, one of the things that you did inside of the data is you were able to use the drill down capability of the software. If I give this to my customer, can that customer also use that same drill down capability that you're using here?
Absolutely. You can obviously filter down. You have a decent amount of control over what the customer sees. Obviously, you don't want customers seeing other data, and obviously you don't want them to have to see your actual rates as a 3PL. Most 3PLs do a markup of some sort, and showing the customer rates would be detrimental to your business because then the customer has, then they get that information that shows what you're doing, and so we don't want that to be shown. And so with Beam, you can actually specify what you want to show in your dashboard and how you want to limit it. This sample dashboard isn't limited at all. But what I can do is if I'm a customer and I say, I'm shipping a lot through YRC, what state am I shipping? Or, oops. And so you can actually do a drill down on this.
Okay.
And of course, it's not working. Okay, so, but one of the things is interactivity in the dashboards is with Beam. And so as a customer, you'll be able to drill down and look at this. I think I have a filter turned on to this so that you can only filter it by certain values, but I'll have to check on that later. But
the capability is there, though. And then just for our understanding, so the data, this repository of all the data and all these tables, where does that reside?
So all this data is living in glass on your own specific server that we host and extract and perform all the maintenance on. And so once that data resides in there, you can create the dashboard that reflects only a certain time period. You can say, I only want last month's figures, or I can do something else. Bob, does that answer your question?
It does. Yeah.
Okay.
So the data that resides in this database, is it from various sources per customer, and the customer defines what that is, or is it specific to MercuryGate or TMS?
So we do have some sort of, we have to keep some specificity so that obviously we have a TMS template. TMS tables will always look the same. We transform the data coming out of different TMSs to look the same once we put it in these terms. But we also have different templates such as the WMS or order management templates. We can also work to create custom templates for your data to integrate it very easily. But basically what happens is we can select almost any TMS and put it in the TMS template. We can select data from any WMS and put the WMS template. But we don't want to integrate WMS data and try and make it look like transportation data, because then it just doesn't make sense. But we do have integration for almost any kind of TMS that has an ability to export the data. Obviously, if there's no way to get the data out, we can't get it into the data warehouse.
Yeah.
And Sam,
Right.
So one of the other advantages, if you took your sales data out of your ERP, mixed it with your transportation data, you could get down to profit to deliver by SKU or by customer. So it doesn't limit you to what you put in. It just is where is your thinking, where do you need to drill down to be able to analyze more effectively?
So if you had an OMS, a WMS, and a TMS, is there a consolidated view of that data?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we do is when we put that data together, we have cohesion across it. And so what happens is that data represents itself, so we can track it by, primary reference. Usually what happens is we have some sort of ID that gets created in the order management system, gets transferred over to the WMS, and then gets transferred over to TMS when it's ready to get booked. And so by tracking those unique IDs for the shipment across your business, we're able to say, you're able to track a single shipment. Maybe it went wrong, maybe something went really well. You want to duplicate it about that. You can see the process from beginning to end, from order to warehousing, and then finally the final move.
Okay.
One of the other reasons that we chose this product called Beam is because it actually enables you to bring data in from different sources right directly into the product. It has a feature in it called the Query Blender that will let you do that. So that's one of the other reasons why we chose this tool, that it has that. And also, just want to introduce the guy that asked the question earlier on was Tom French, our CEO. He was able to get in on the end of our call here. Thank you, Tom. Okay.
And one of the, also, in case you're curious, not everything in your BI tool has to be integrated through Glass. Obviously, if you have a single Excel spreadsheet containing, 50 lines of business rules, it wouldn't be cost effective to go ahead and extract that into our supply chain data warehouse. What you can do in Beam is integrate within the BI tool multiple different data sources. So say you have an Excel file containing a customer code and then the meaning of it. So you have different codes for your different types of customers, and you track that in your TMS, but it doesn't know the name of that. What we do is we put that in an Excel spreadsheet, and we could easily integrate that into your business intelligence tool and then link the data through there. So there's two different ways you can link these data sources together: inside of Glass for your larger data sets, and then inside the BI tool for quick one-off smaller files.
Okay. That's great. So, Sam, I think we're coming towards the end of our half-hour limit here. So I'd like to see if we have any questions from our group here that they've entered, or any questions, and we'll be able to take those now, if you like. And also,
absolutely.
Okay. All right. Any questions? I know you've been, and this is good. You asked questions during the presentation. That's good. We like that that interactive kind of flow that we have here. That I think that works out a heck of a lot better for us.
Yeah, and Bob, this is Tom again. One of the things that you got to keep in mind that it's imagine what you need to do or how you need to do it in order to be able to do better at how do you get products to market. A perfect example is one of our customers came to us and said, we need to really look at bracket pricing, and we want to look at bracket pricing throughout the country. So not only just in the region closest to where we ship from, but also in outlying regions. So if you can think about that for a minute, if you look at each region separately down to a SKU grouping, it tells you what the cost to service that customer is by group. So if you see that the trend is they're not ordering full truckloads, but ordering 1 pallet or 10 pallets or 5 pallets or half a truckload, you can see the different costs associated with being able to service that customer. Within that, you can go back through the marketing and say, are we priced right so that we're maximizing our profit based on bracket pricing? So one of the things you want to really think about as you look at a database like this is just what is it that you can do to be better at what you do in your business, whether it's driving profit going forward or whether it's analyzing cost and figuring out how to do it better, less expensive, or more efficiently. And the whole idea of the glass is having year over year so that you can look at a lot of years in multiple just to see how are we trending in each of the different areas or with customer groups or with product groups to be able to figure out how you do better business analysis at the top line, the management group. Is there any questions from the group that we can answer? And I think this is really. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, the other question,
yeah. So the other one that really comes to mind for me is when you're a third-party logistics company or a logistics service provider, having this data that you can give to your customers so they can do year-over-year analysis without having to have Edge on their computer or having to get there, without being able to see data that you don't necessarily want them to look at is really important. And that's a huge, huge benefit to me for logistics service providers. Okay, Bob, go ahead.
Nothing. I just wanted to touch on and people might be curious as to, okay, what does this cost? What does the setup look like, and what kind of time frame are we looking at to get this off the ground? That may be something that you can talk just briefly about, Sam.
Absolutely.
And how the application looks.
So that last add-on to that question was, we missed it.
Sorry, I was just adding to that and how the application is actually set up. Like, what's the back-end database and what are the requirements for front-end to run a system like this?
Okay.
Go ahead, Sam. So first off, Glass is run on the cloud, and we host it, we maintenance it. It uses a MyISAM version of MySQL with a special table setup that we designed in-house. We host this on our own cloud servers, and so it's accessible. You don't have to do you don't have to have a server at your company. You don't have to have any kind of infrastructure necessarily. All you need is an internet connection, and you're able to connect to Glass. And so that's one of the requirements that we've had is that so that we can scale well from the smallest 3PLs to the largest 3PLs. Larger companies do have their own infrastructure that they can implement, but usually it's more difficult to try and work with that. And for us, it's a lot more difficult to try and understand what kind of environment are we running it in. And so what we do is we run it in our own environment where we're able to, A, have it scale well, and B, maintain it and have it cohesive across the entire, all our clients. One of the points that Bob brought up that I think is really important that I didn't really mention before is the ability to have year-over-year analysis. Because of that, we're able to store it on our own servers. We're able to store in the heaviest volume of 3PLs. We're able to guarantee that you have 10 years of shipping data that you can put inside without having to roll off data, upgrade to a different size. And that in that case, it's actually over 15,000 shipments per month, which we find to be the top 10% of 3PLs that fall under that category. We're able to store 10 years. In most cases, we're able to store about 30 years. Obviously, we don't expect to live it that long, but we're definitely prepared for that. As for the cost,
okay, go ahead. That's what I want you to get to. Go ahead.
Okay, absolutely. So the cost is really kind of variable. A larger 3PL is going to present a lot more troubles with data. We're pushing big data here, and we're trying to get that. And big data is difficult. That's why it's such a big buzzword right now. Is we're trying to work with that. And as the data gets bigger, it gets more problematic. But we're still able to keep the cost low pretty quickly. For a TMS, WMS that we've already written the writers for, usually a glass implementation takes about 2 weeks. We give a full 4-week timeline just to kind of include all the things that could go wrong. And we obviously spend time working with the client to kind of customize this to your needs. We also include training on whatever BI tool you use, and also documentation on what do these tables mean, what is inside of it. But now getting to the price. The heaviest 3PL, we charge a hosting fee per month. But since it's all in the cloud, we get to charge a lot less than what it would cost to run in-house. What we charge is per month for the largest 3PL would be about $900 a month. For the smallest 3PL, it gets down to $400 per month. Usually what we see is the average customer falls under $500 to $750 a month price range that we include as the medium to medium large 3PLs. So that's the price. And then depending on how much data, we extract historical data as well. So data that you already have in TMS, as well as the live data that gets updated every week. We have to extract that large data set that's already historical. And that included with the setup is going to be your setup fee, which is determined on basically just how much data we have to extract.
Okay, thanks, Sam. We're about 5 minutes over, and I just want to thank Sam and Tom and everybody who joined us here today. And I know you'll have more questions, and that's we are available for your calls, emails, and look forward to working with all of you. So if you have any other questions, just let us know, and we're ready to go. Okay?
Absolutely. And if anyone else has any other questions, feel free to stay on the line, and we'll be able to address those as well if you have any further ones as well.
And our contact information is on display, so both Bob's and mine are there, plus our phone number. So feel free to reach out to us. We'll have somebody get back to you. Okay. Thanks, Tom.
All right. Appreciate your time. Thank you, folks.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.